on, or talk, or yell, either way.
That's fine.
Very good. Oh, okay. Could he be in the waiting room? See, 3 people are in the waiting room.
We have a waiting room.
Zoom has new security features that either require a password or a waiting room for certain users. Yeah, so that you can't just have the surprise.
Right.
Data privacy, confidentiality proceedings. Tammy, are you on a screen share or are you on a duplicate for your screen? Okay. Oh. Tammy, is the screen a duplicate of what you're looking at? Perhaps you can look at this. Can you move your screen over there?
Yeah. But we have to.
Send over the administrator.
You mind if I take a quick look? Having hosted 75 Zoom meetings this week so far. We'll get started in just a moment on this virtual world. So, let me grab your second.
What happened is when we went to share, it minimized that, but now we can get out of share and make it bigger to what you
Look at that one.
There.
No worries.
It's not on our screen.
I don't know, it's above my pay grade, I don't even try. Thank goodness I don't have to do any
I
of
think they
that.
were doing dual screens and she didn't realize she could scroll over
Yeah.
the second screen,
Yeah.
which would be weird if it was that far away. I would probably be the same.
Over my head.
Thank you for your patience in our new multimodal environment. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, the Fortville Advisory Plan Commission agenda, and we will start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Tammy, are we all squared away as it relates to roll call? Very good. Thank you so much. And Adam, could you take us to agenda item number 2, which is the oath of office for a new member?
So first, did we want to do a quick sound check, make sure people on the Zoom can hear us?
That'd be just
We had
fine.
some problems in the past. I think if you could try to speak in your microphone as much as possible, that might help as well. So if you're on the Zoom call, can you hear okay? Audience, can you hear okay? All right. All right, good. If anything happens where you can't hear me either online or in person, let me know. All right, so the first item is the oath of office for a new member, Jason Snyder. If you recall, Jim Anderson resigned from the board, and the town council president, in accordance with state law, appointed a new member, and certainly welcome Jason to the board. So the first order of business on that is for Jason to take the oath of office. So Tammy, if you wanted to.
I, Jason Snyder,
I, Jason Snyder,
plan commission appointee of the town council president,
a plan commission, or, I'm sorry, what? Yep, there we go.
or plan
A plan commission appointee of the town council president, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully perform the duties of my appropriated office and will support and honor to the best of my ability all applicable laws of the state of Indiana and the town of Fortville, as well as the governing rules, policies, and procedures of the commission. I hereby affirm that I will perform the duties of this public trust in a fair, equitable, and ethical manner according to the law and to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Thank you, Tammy. And 2 signatures makes it official. Welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for your service. We will now head to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes from July 28, 2020. You may have them in front of you, and you also will have received those with the agenda for today. Any edits or recommendations or motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the July 20, 2020 minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And all those who had abstained?
Aye.
Thank you so much, Jason. Okay. Let's head now to, well, a couple of notes. Do we have any agenda changes for this evening before we get into the agenda items? Okay, thank you. And we will be following our rules of procedure. So we will hear a bit on both of these cases. We will have an opportunity to hear from the public. We will not be taking direct oaths because our attorney is participating via Zoom. It's a little bit clunky to handle in that manner, but we ask that any comments be made here at the microphone. We're making sure that anybody who's participating live or via audio or video have the full benefit of comments that are going on. So please, if you'd like to share comments, please come up here to the microphone and do so, and we'll get your name and everything recorded. So with that said, let's go ahead and go into our first public hearing, case number 03RZ 2020, the Dillon Park PUD. Adam, can you kick us off? Thank you.
All right, for the record, I'm Adam Zaklikowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. I think we hit the arrow button. Yeah, I'm not sure why I did that. All right, so on this particular case, as you know, Arbor Homes is the applicant, and Byers Farm LLC is the owner of the property today. It's generally at the northeast corner of Fortville Pike and County Road 850 North. The zoning today is R1.0. That's a Hancock County designation. The voluntary annexation process is underway, and they are seeking a rezone to planned unit development. It's about 112 acres in size, and they're looking to construct 317 single-family residential homes. the PUD would allow them to go up to 320. The density that they're looking to achieve is about 2.83 dwelling units per acre, and the max would be 2.93 per their PUD document. Minimum lot width is 60 feet, but 40% of the lots would be a minimum of 65 feet. And just a refresher, the town's comprehensive plan shows the majority of the site is agricultural. There is a small portion at the northwest corner of the site. It's about 8 acres that's shown as residential on the comprehensive plan. So the history for this case, if you recall, back on June 30th, this body issued a unanimously negative recommendation on the project. But since then, the applicant revised the PUD, which we'll go through those changes here momentarily. And the town council did hold first reading, that introductory reading on the ordinance, which reflected those changes on September 8th. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of what's changed. These were the staff concerns in June and how Arbor has responded. And as you can see, a lot of things they've addressed, which we're encouraged by. First one is they've agreed not to do vinyl siding. That would match the Mount Vernon North D.R. Horton neighborhood across the street. They've committed to increasing the side yard setbacks, going from a minimum of 5 feet to 8 feet. So they do go up slightly. In the previous presentation, we cited the need to repave County Road 850 North and ensure a minimum width of 24 feet. That's been addressed. The developer has agreed to contribute $750 per lot, which would result in a little over $237,000 based on that lot count to the town. And the town would contribute any additional needed funds for widening of that road. Chairback curbs, that's been addressed. They will be provided throughout the neighborhood. Irrigation in common areas, that's been addressed. They will provide that along Fortville Pike. More tree preservation, that's really the only issue that remains at this point, and I think we've got a proposal on how to deal with it, but we'll certainly walk you through it to see what you all think. And then lastly, the rapid flashing beacon signs at crosswalks near each intersection across Fortville Pike, they've addressed that. They'll provide those. So here's where the site is. You can see the graded land to the west where that Mount Vernon North subdivision is underway. And if you'll notice on the property, obviously it's predominantly farmland. There is a significant patch of wooded area that you see there at the corner of the property. And that's the area in which we're hoping to have some additional tree preservation. Here's the comprehensive plan map. So when this was done in March 2016, the vision for this area was to be predominantly agricultural with a small section of residential at the northwest corner. And then here's the current zoning map. You can see that the yellow is R1.0 zoning in the county. This is a representative sample of one of the type of homes that they look to build in the neighborhood. Here's another. It is similar to the products overall in Windstone, but with some additional bells and whistles, as we like to say. And there's a third version. I won't talk too much about the PUD standards template, other than, if you'll recall, that was adopted by council back in 2017. We've had 3 projects that have been approved: Park Creek, Northwest Fortville, and Mount Vernon North, using that as a template. And of course, as part of this process, the developer can propose changes to that template. They just need to be approved ultimately by council with your recommendation. So I won't get into all of this nitty gritty. We went over this before in June. I can certainly come back to it if we need to. I think we went over the main changes that they made to the document, but it is here in case we need to refer back to it. And then on that last one, the other thing that didn't get mentioned is they agreed to have slightly wider driveways in the neighborhood at 19 feet wide. The typical is usually 16 feet wide, but we had been receiving a lot of complaints from people in Windstone that the driveways are too narrow, and it seemed like a reasonable adjustment. So Arbor committed that. All right, so under Indiana code, you're required to at least consider the following elements. So number one, is this project consistent with the comprehensive plan? I would say no for the most part, that if you're looking at the map, as we showed, it's predominantly agricultural, although some on the west end is shown as residential. So just looking at it simplistically, that would be the statement on that. Number two, is it consistent with the current conditions and the character of the current structures? No, but it would be upon development. So this is not unreasonable or atypical for that criteria. Number three, is it consistent with the most desirable use of land? I'd say yes and no. The town's comprehensive plan identifies this as agricultural, so in some sense, that's the use intended for the property, but we do have high quality new housing across the street. So this area is becoming more single family residential in nature. Number four, is it consistent with the conservation of property values? I would say yes, unlike the last time. The home builder has committed to following many of the stringent development standards established in the PUD template to ensure high property values. And then lastly, is this consistent with responsible growth and development? In this case, I say yes, that the home builder, again, is following stringent development standards, and the neighborhood would be across the street from another neighborhood under construction. In terms of the community input that we've heard both at the June Plan Commission meeting and in various letters, phone calls, discussions with residents out there since then, to summarize, all the comments really fall into one of these categories. So there were some major concerns that were raised about the loss of the wooded area. And this area of Fortville does not have many trees to begin with. Some remonstrators have said that the wooded area should be a nature preserve. So in analyzing it and listening to the neighbors carefully on that, there's three potential ways of solving that issue. One is they could remove a drainage pond, possibly expand another planned pond elsewhere, maybe move it to the northeast side of the neighborhood near that panhandle. The second option is they could potentially purchase property to the north, the Combs property, which I believe is for sale, for housing, and add it to this development. And that could potentially keep the wooded area in its entirety and create a walking path through that wooded preserve. Or three, they could simply consider removing some lots in the wooded area. The other concerns we heard from the neighbors were concerns over increased traffic. We heard concerns about drainage. And then we heard concerns about vinyl siding and low development standards. So with that, staff recommendation, my recommendation would be to grant a positive recommendation with the following stipulation for your consideration: that more trees in the wooded area shall be preserved by removing the pond or acquiring additional property or removing lots. And the next step for this project, this is tentative, this would potentially be subject to change. It would go to Fortville Town Council for review for this second reading of the rezone. That'd be the final reading of it. And at that same meeting, they would do the second reading of the annexation, and that's anticipated for October 5th at 7 p.m. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those, or I can address them later if you like. Thank you.
Any questions for Adam at this time?
So in your laundry list here, we have minimum lot width 60 feet, but you say 40% of the lots have a minimum of 65. Isn't our minimum 65?
So let's go back to that slide. Yes, that one. Okay. So in the PUD template standard, the prescribed width is 65 feet. Now, it should be mentioned that in R1 zoning, both in the county and in Fortville, it's 125 feet minimum. So what they're looking to do is a minimum of 60 feet, but 40% of the lots would be 65 feet or wider. %. Yeah, let's make sure we're correct on that.
Yeah, the minimum lot width, 60% of the lots will be 65 in the PUD, but in the comparison, it'd be 40. So it's the 60. We'll check that.
Yes, Christian's correct. It's actually even better. 60% of the lots will be 65 feet as opposed to 40%. So my apologies.
Are we going to hear from the Arbor representative
Certainly.
next then? Okay.
Certainly
Because I'll have
can,
questions for
yeah.
him, Bob. That's all I have for you.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Adam? Adam, the only other item we haven't talked about is the minimum house size differential. And so column, the blue column is the
Mhm.
category, proposed standard is the first column, the second column is our PUD.
Mhm.
So what discussions or what recommendations are you seeing around the minimum house size? Because we are at a differential.
Sure. Yeah, there's no doubt that the product that they're looking to implement is slightly smaller than what was prescribed by those PUD standards. From a planning perspective, I don't have an issue with it because a lot of those numbers are dependent on the market and what people are looking for. So if the square footage is within range of what the PUD template had prescribed, I think that's defensible in my mind. Now, certainly if it was vastly different, then there would be an issue. But my opinion is my professional opinion would be I don't believe that deviation is a huge deviation from what was envisioned.
Has that number changed since the last proposal? The minimum square foot?
No,
So that stayed, okay.
correct.
Thank you, Adam. All right. Anybody who, you want to pause for just a moment? Great. Well, okay, well, we'll stay on Dylan for just a few moments. And anybody here to speak on behalf of this case? On behalf of? Okay. Okay, please come up to the microphone and give us your name and then, this is your presentation that you have
Yep.
to present. Okay, and while she's pulling that up, go ahead and give us your name.
My name is Christian Rector. I am the Director of Land Acquisition and Entitlement with Arbor Homes.
Welcome, Christian. So we'll get to and you're going to follow a PowerPoint for your portion?
Yes, hopefully here.
Maybe.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to interrupt me and let me know. This is a slightly abbreviated presentation, given that we've been here before and been to town council, and this is our second public hearing. But as I said, if there's any information you need, feel free to let me know. I'm on mainly focus on the changes in the processes, how we got here. When we initially came back in June, it was our goal to provide a slightly different type of housing. It was not our goal to completely replicate what was across the street at Mount Vernon North, but to offer a variety of housing options within Fortville. We heard loud and clear from Adam as well as the public comments that you guys had created the PUD standards for a reason. And while it's not necessarily a thou must hit every single one of them, they are guidelines and standards for us to hit. And we have worked with Adam extensively through several meetings to understand what are the important ones. And now that is what has led to us now being at this point where I believe we have a very quality development that I think Adam, for the most part, supports and is equal to or exceeds what is across the street at Mount Vernon North. So if you want to hit the arrow, maybe. Okay, there we go. You can continue forward. Again, there's the overview of the parcel. You can continue to the next slide. So I think Adam already hit on all of these. I will say we also have some recreation areas with the lakes, the trails, and a playground. Also, though we are developing where the woods are now, we do have 24% open space preserved. Some of the major changes since last time we were here, we are now meeting the 8-foot minimum side yard setbacks with 16 foot between buildings. As Adam just stated, we are taking 60 foot is the minimum, which will still have to meet those minimum side yard setbacks, but we also have 60% of our lots at 65 foot wide or over, which is similar to what is across the street. The biggest one we heard was the exterior cladding and the vinyl ban. So we have agreed to not install vinyl siding on the homes. It will be a hardy plank product. We originally had 50% brick or stone on the front elevation, unless it was a Craftsman elevation. That was, in our view, that was providing a diversity of housing, different elevations, a different product than what was across the street. It was kind of an exchange for the vinyl. We have since heard that the hardy plank cement fiber siding is what is preferred. So we are now doing a 36-inch brick wainscot across the front is the minimum masonry requirement for each home to go with that cement fiber siding. That is the minimum, and we will offer options to add additional brick. And in neighborhoods where we have no brick on the front, we see a significant percentage of buyers upgrade to add additional brick. That is also only a requirement across the street on the corner lots that they have a masonry wainscot. On the corner lots, we are continuing with the brick wainscot around. As Adam mentioned, we've agreed to widen the driveways by 3 foot. So it goes beyond just the width of the 16-foot garage door. Adam has asked for chair back curves only, and we have agreed to that, as well as he mentioned, the irrigation in those large common areas and recreation areas out along Fortville Pike. And a part of that discussion, we have also agreed to the $750 a home commitment for the road improvements of the county road to the south. So with the PUD, which is the zone classification we are going to, the point is to allow negotiation between the town and the developer to come up with different product options. We believe we have met basically everything Adam has asked for, other than now the tree preservation area, and we hope this addresses Plan Commission's concerns.
So, any questions?
What is your position on the tree area?
It's not feasible for the development to preserve it. We have the pond there, one, because we need it for detention and dirt for the site. But also right now, water kind of naturally drains that way. We can't feasibly sheet drain a development after we've developed it. So we will be changing the routing of all the water a significant number of those trees would die once we reroute that water anyway. We are also going to be planting a buffer along the county road, and in addition to all kinds of trees throughout the development. I understand that they're not the exact size of trees that exist today, but they will grow over time. And I believe we will end up planting more trees throughout the development than we cut down.
So on your map, the area where the trees exist now, there is a kind of a corner area.
Yeah, so
Are they going to stay or go?
those will stay.
Okay.
And we will not grade into that area so that what water is there will hopefully and will be able to continue to go that
So how's the
direction.
backup to that? That's going to be the
Yep.
area as a tree. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had one quick question. As far as quality, what price point, what's your price range that you're looking to hit with these at the end?
That is a great question. In today's dollars, I would, if we were opening for sale today, my guess is the average sales price would be well north of $260,000. Now, if you see a marketing sign that says homes from the 190s, that's, I'm talking about average sales price when I say 260, not the smallest floor plan with no upgrades in it. It's also our average sales price has skyrocketed over the last few years. Lumber is up 80% this year. So when I say those numbers, that's in today's prices, and I by no means expect it to go down. But that's, I just want to, it's difficult when we're talking about predicting pricing 18 months out from now.
Sure. And then do you have how many like single story versus 2-story homes, the kind of a ratio that you're looking to hit?
We build what we offer. I think in here will be 12 different floor plans. Our smallest one won't be offered. So that's 3 ranches and 8 2-stories that are available. The Bradford is and Chestnut are our 2 largest ranches. Those are very popular with empty nesters. They're downsizing. But then our 2 most popular floor plans overall are both 2 stories. So I don't know exactly what that ratio will end up being, but by no means do I expect it to be predominantly ranches.
Okay. I'll throw one more question in. Just on, and this isn't anywhere I've seen. Do you limit the number of similar elevations within a certain distance of each, so there's not 2 houses identical sitting next to each
Yes, I believe we have built into the PUD our standard anti-monotony, which means you cannot build the same elevation adjacent to or across the street from a home, nor can you do the same primary color of home. So it's not either or. You can't do either of those things.
Right, but there's not a minimum number. You have to be at least 3 houses down. You just
Yes.
can't be next to or directly across the street.
Well,
Correct.
there should be a 5 minimum. Yeah. It's a
Five.
5 lot
5
minimum.
lots? Okay.
So, in each one of them, I say we have, we'll be offering 11 floor plans. There are 5 or 6 elevations on each one of those, including the Craftsman and Tudor elevations. We typically don't struggle too much with the anti-monotony with all the options we offer.
Let's stay on the topic of market conditions for a moment. And can you revisit the question that I had about minimum home size and why that does not meet the minimum PUD standards? And maybe based upon the market conditions that you see?
So we get this question all the time. I believe the standard in your PUD is 1,700 square feet. We're asking for 1,300 on the ranch. That is primarily because we have some people who just don't want that number of square feet. It's not one of our best selling plans. I don't expect to build a ton of them in there. Our next smallest ranch is 1,600. But it allows that option. One of the things we have seen is different municipalities have instituted minimum square foot requirements. Especially with empty nesters, it has limited their options for what they want. Our second most popular floor plan is a 3,100 square foot 2-story. And we only offer one 2-story that is under your requirement.
Do you and your municipalities you work with also have a percentage, almost like what we've done for a minimum width on a percentage of total? Have you worked on those with ranges? Do you have a percentage of total that would be allowable in the 1,300, 1,600 square foot if it's not market condition to do those anyways?
We have done that once before, and I believe we put a cap at, I think it was 8% on that 1,300 square foot plan.
Okay. Can you address some of the concerns that we've heard about traffic?
Traffic is something we hear everywhere we go. Everybody sees 300 new homes or whatever it may be, and immediately does the math, assumes that every single house is going to have a minimum of 2 cars or even 3, and that they start thinking everybody's going to leave at exactly 7:30 in the morning, come home at exactly 5:30. I'd be disingenuous if I said we weren't going to be adding traffic here. Obviously, we will be. However, with 317 lots, this is going to be a slow project over a number of years. It's not going to all come in at once. It's on Fortville Pike. Our entrance lines up with Mount Vernon North directly across the street, which is a good thing for traffic and safety there. We have talked through, as we initially talked about, expanding the road today to the south. We kind of wonder if that was a good idea to do that today or give money to allow the town to do that when it was the right time. Currently, that road dead ends at the next county road over, and there's a bridge that would act as a choke down point anyway. So we believe our contribution is equal to our impact we're going to have. So the town can best address that when it is time to.
Well chosen word, impact. Okay.
You also have a traffic expert over here that I might deflect a question to if needed.
All right, I do have a question. This is in regards to the garage recess and protrusion. So obviously in the planned unit development, we have 5 foot behind the living space. When I'm reading your documents, it says protrusions allowed. When I dig into it a little more, it says not to exceed 16 feet. That's quite a bit difference. What's your generally, how much of a protrusion do the majority of your houses have?
The majority of them are about, I want to say, 4 feet, about equivalent with the front porch. That is a standard that was put in there in your PUD standards. I do not believe Mount Vernon across the street meets that either. I will say that it is something we've seen asked for by a few different communities, and it is incredibly difficult to build an efficient floor plan
Yeah, I
with a
understand
recessed
why
garage.
developments do that. Obviously, it cuts down on the concrete they needed for their driveways.
It also reduces the square footage of the home that you can efficiently use.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will have additional time after we proceed with some of our other agenda topics on this matter. Do we have anybody who is in the audience who would like to speak against? Please approach the microphone. Please state your name. And we do have a time limits, but I'll just kind of, in a relaxed manner, monitor that behind the scenes.
Okay.
Please give us your name and spelling.
Thunder Williams, Thunder, Williams, Williams.
Go
And I
ahead.
live in Mount Vernon Way.
Got it.
We see all this stuff coming up. We did not get asked about what's going on. I just got a paper last week. My neighbors, we don't know. We see things popping up. So we feel like we're out of the dark on this. You talk about safety. You talk like one across the street. What about us? Because right now, at nighttime, I can tell you when it's 7 o'clock by traffic. I can tell you by 11 o'clock by traffic. I can tell you 6 o'clock in the morning about traffic. So he can say all he wants. Already we're getting a lot of traffic. You stand out here by the stoplight, about 5 o'clock, it's all the way past the church. Okay, so where does the city stop? And because I'm in a township, I'm not in your city town council thing. Okay, I'm not saying anything bad. I didn't vote you in. I didn't get to. I would. Okay, don't get me wrong, but we don't even get a vote on this. Okay. Then another problem I have is real quick, not a complaint. What about our sewers? I've been there for 20 years. We have one mound system. We had another guy that couldn't put a mound system, but the city allowed him to hook up to the line behind along the creek there where the church is, which I go to. So what happened to our sewer? What happens to our electricity? Because when that goes up, my friend tried to sell his house. He couldn't sell his house there because all this is coming up. So if we can't hook up to your city sewer, then what happens? And that's one of my concerns. If you guys can answer that for me, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anybody else in the audience today, live here, who would like to speak against the project or have any specific questions?
So Rainy Hayes, I'm on Zoom. If I could have an opportunity, I'd appreciate it.
That'd be just fine. Please state your name and spell it for us.
Randall Hayes, Randall
Go right ahead, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it. And also, I want to thank you for some of the great work the town has done in our community, and I'm referring to Mount Vernon North. I share the property line to the north of the development and live on Fortville High. And I think it's appropriate we mention Vernon North, because I believe it's a real shining example of a success story and a collaborative one at that. And they proved a commitment to help preserve natural resources and create a wonderful addition to our community, and I'm a proud to be a neighbor. So I just wanted to state that. On 6/12, we sent comments for the public hearing to be held on 6/30. And at that time, we stated our concern about the woods. And in there, just briefly, we said that the woods, the clear cut that woods would be a travesty, right, of that beautiful and useful natural resource. And when I'm looking at and considering, all of the work, I've been around for a long time. And, we've been around when we were doing the comprehensive plan, and when we were reviewing that Fortville comprehensive plan, it seems like quality of life and community character is an important color of the plan. And some of the goals and objectives are centered around parks and recreation and environment. And so when I look at the goals and objectives of the plan, that section C, environment, goal 1, is to identify any environmental assets that need to be protected within the existing jurisdiction and in any future areas for growth. And I think that we kind of identified that early on in June, right? And we've been asking, for Auburn to work to be a creative partner, right, in that area since then. I think when you put together all the elements of what Adam's been trying to work for with Arbor and the proposal, I think almost all of them fall into developmental standards, right? And even though they're not even meeting the minimum of a PUD, right, I think they've come a long way, but again, it's been so incremental. And I think that wood should be identified as a natural resource to be preserved, and it represents not a development standard, but an important color of the comprehensive plan. So to me, it has a whole separate weight all of its own. And right now, the development is not in alignment with the comprehensive plan as the town of Fortville Future Growth Concept Map identifies this parcel as predominantly agricultural, right? And when we did the plan many years ago, this quadrant was identified through the survey community that they wanted to preserve some of our natural character and some of the agricultural, right? And so I'm not naive to think, I know that these plans are meant to be living documents, and they're changeable, and they're supposed to be, for the good of the community and everyone involved, right? I think we should all realize what we're giving up here to the plan. And so, again, if they're not going to work on trying to save that wood, we should almost give up as a PUD, just go back to R1 and maybe make a grid like the town, which I think would make the town more unified and not separate, like market PUDs. So anyway, I think that's one of my main concerns. I think that when you talk to people, I think they're very proud of their parks and their recreation areas. I think it's an opportunity for a trailway to go through there. The plan talks about ensuring the continued stewardship of Fortville's natural environment. mean, last, we're a designated tree state, and I think we're very proud of that fact, right? And I just think that the plan is meant to be a guide, again, a living document, changeable. That if we only had one natural resource to protect, in that plan, what would we do? Would we let it go? Get some hardboard siding? And we have more than one resource out in the area that you're coming out for. There's only a handful. Most of what you're looking at out here is soybean fields and corn fields, right? And so really, if we cannot protect just the very few handful of natural areas that are left out here, I think when we look back, and we haven't protected them, in the future, I think we're gonna be sorry of the opportunity that we lost. And so I think that although that after some months and a lot of hard work, the town was able to get harbor close on some of the DEP development standards, I believe they're making enough records. It became a very special natural resource. And I think there's an opportunity in this area as adjacent parcels are being sold with the right developer, the entire area between 900 and 850 could be another success story for our community. So in closing, I just want to wrap back around to my statement in June. And if this natural resource is a risk, I invite you all to walk that woods. There's trees out there that are probably over 100 years old. They're huge. And see what a beautiful natural resource and an opportunity we have for our community. And just please make Dillon Park live up to the name and make it a park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Just confirming that we did hear your commentary about the comprehensive plan and agriculture, trees, parks, and trails. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We do have another member here in our audience who would like to speak as well. So please come up to the microphone and state your name, spell it as well, and you can offer your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Sean Nugent. Nice to see you all. This really isn't a complaint or really going necessarily against, just some things to be thoughtful of. Just a little bit about my background. I've been a custom builder, a developer. I'm actually a real estate broker. That's what I do by day most of the time now. And I've been an executive with a couple different companies. So I come from maybe a higher level position than what you're normally going to get coming up and talking to you about your business and what you're trying to do here. So first off, kudos to all the effort that's gone into trying to get to this point. I noticed Adam, when I met Adam a couple of years ago, his hair was completely black. So it's okay, Adam. We're all right. So I appreciate all his effort. He's got a lot of experience, and everybody's working hard to try to get this thing to where you want to be. One thing I want to talk about from a high level perspective, and I get this perception, and I will rewind and regress and tell you a little bit about me personally. I grew up here, born and raised here, and then moved around the country for my job. My wife and I have been blessed enough to live in some really wonderful communities. One of them was Anthem, Arizona, one of the fastest growing towns in the U.S. Our next step, we came back here and we moved to Fishers. We really enjoyed our time watching Fishers grow, but we made the move to come back to this community because it's wonderful. The schools here are, they're second to none. It doesn't matter what the rankings say. I can tell you the quality of the education the kids get. The people in the community here are amazing. So I become really emotional when I watch this happen, because one of the things that I kind of feel like I get into this common theme with our community is we sell ourselves short. I find ourselves selling ourselves short. I feel like I hear a lot of things like, hey, we don't want to be like Fishers, or we don't want to be like Carmel. Damn it, we can be better than that. And some of that takes a little bit of slow down, pumping the brakes and being more thoughtful. Everybody's got their agenda. I get that. Affordable housing is a major issue. We have major issues with affordable housing. I see the changes in the PUD, and I can appreciate the fact that we're trying to go to some smaller homes, maybe more quality. There's a need, but is that the need for Fortville? Is that the need for what this could be? We're bumping up right into some major play growth with Hamilton County. And I know we don't want to be Hamilton County, but we can be better than Hamilton County. I've watched Zionsville grow over in the next neighboring county. Amazing. I think we could be that, but it's going to take some slow walk and some more thought. So I commend everybody. There's a lot going on here. So it's really not a complaint. I mean, I have personal concerns with that development. Mine's pretty small. I'm looking at the road, Adam, which you can appreciate, the original development here, roads, right? And I know nobody thinks about it, but I've got a road running right into the front of my house. So every time somebody comes down through that north and south street, I'm gonna have lights coming right into my front door. I've got a glass front door and glass across the front of my house. I'm not gonna complain about that. I'd hope maybe you guys would work with me to try to make some adjustments on that to where I could live peacefully next to this development. But what I really wanted to get up and tell everybody today is that I think we can do better. I think we're meeting some things. I think there's been a lot of hard work. I'm not undercutting what Arbor does. I've seen their quality. I know their quality of the work. They build some nice product. That's not it. But I think we could do better. I don't think we have to move this fast. And I have some concerns, especially now when we start talking about the price point, you know, the tax implications and how that affects us and how that affects the town. And I'm right on the edge, so I'm not involved in the town. I'm not running for a spot. That's not me. But I hope that we can do those things and drive the dollars so that we can put dollars back into this and back into the town and make things better and not make it a burden on the town, not make it a burden on the schools. You know, how does that all work? I mean, that's beyond me. You guys are knee deep in it. But I just wanted to get up and tell you guys that I appreciate everything you're doing. But I'd just like everybody to think bigger. Think bigger. Don't sell yourself short, because ultimately you're selling the community short. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nutrient. And Tammy, were you okay on spelling there? Okay. N-U-G-E-N-T, give me a thumbs up. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else here who would like to speak against or have questions, please? You can state your name and spell it, and then you can proceed.
My name is Jody Wills, W-I-L-L-S. We're not against the growth. I live on 850 and we welcome it. It's going to happen. But frankly, we're just really against Arbor Homes coming in. I mean, I went down I-70, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I looked over, and it's a fairly new addition. Siding's coming off. The shingles are mixed matched. The homes are 2 years old, maybe. Like what Mr. Nugent said, we can do better. And, you know, it's very worrisome. I mean, it feels like since day one, Arbor's come in, it seems to me like they've tried to make cuts, and they're not wanting to go up to Fortville standards. And I just feel like that we can do better. And the new addition across the street, it's very nice. I'm excited. All the neighbors are excited. But to my knowledge, there's not one neighbor that's excited about Arbor. And so my question is, if this passes, who will watch over and make sure that, is it the town or is it the county? I mean, who will be the inspectors? I mean, I don't know what protocol is as far as watching, and does anyone, I mean, will be this?
We'll be able to answer all questions in aggregate
Okay,
once we get
okay.
them back up. We'll get that noted down for you, though.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's our concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Ms. Wills, or was it?
W-I-L-L-S.
Thank you very much. Okay, anybody here live today who would like to have any other comments? Any further on the Zoom? Oh, we've just got about 2 more minutes.
My name is Terry Wheeler. I live right across, I live on the south side of 850 North, and our property is going to be just right across from this development. Of course, I'm not in favor of it. I think it's going to make our property value go down. I think it's going to really change our quality of life out there. I would much rather see you keep it with like 10-acre lots like they did at the end of the road so that it still maintains some of the country atmosphere that we have now. I'm very concerned about traffic on 850 North. This road is not made it's not wide enough. And if they're not going to go ahead and widen it now, at the end of the road, I think you're going to have a lot of people cutting down our road. My understanding is there's going to be two outlets from the development that are on 850 North. I don't think are they going to, my question would be, are they going to leave an area on their side so that they're not taking our property to widen the road? So if they're not going to do it now, are they going to leave an area there then to do it later? I also would have a question about the landscaping on 850 North, exactly what that's going to look like. Are we going to be looking at backyards? You know, when we're at when we're on our property. But my main thing is the traffic. As he said, you're probably going to have somewhere close to over 600 homes here total, and you're going to have 2 to 3 cars per home, most likely. Fortville Pike we have some property on Fortville Pike that we mow. The traffic along there is terrible now. It's very difficult to mow because it's sloped and you have to get out in the road, and you really can't do that. I think there's going to be a big problem with traffic, and I just wonder if you're taking this into consideration. The county has said they're not going to widen the road at the end, and I think a lot of people are going to be cutting down that road just to get out, just to bypass Fortville because of you do have traffic build up clear back to the Nazarene Church sometimes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. All right, we have come to just over our time frame allowable for our remonstrance. So we will now head into a time frame where we have the rebuttal. Now, we do have a couple of questions that have come up. I just want to make sure we perfect the record with questions that have come. So Adam, we'll have you back up in just a moment. But if Mr. Rector, you would like to go ahead and share with us any thoughts you have, we'll follow up with any open items after that.
With the traffic, I probably should have finished my thought earlier a little better when I said everybody expects the worst with 2 to 3 cars. That's the math everyone initially does. That exaggerates the actual traffic impact. You have a lot of single people moving in those homes that only have a single car that come in there. And then, as I said, this is going to happen over years. But related to traffic, what Mr. Nugent said, I do want to address the market and the need for housing. To call $260,000 homes affordable, I struggle with that a little bit. The first home I bought was barely over half of that, and there is a need in this market. And I say this market, I'm not talking about just Fortville as a whole individually, but Indianapolis as a whole. When you look at the top 35 metro areas in the country, Indianapolis has the fastest falling housing supply of any of them right now. That is largely because of the zoning environment we are up against. That is a large reason why we see the pricing of existing homes absolutely soaring right now. Indianapolis, I've lived here almost my entire life, with the exception of 1 year when I worked for a builder in Houston. And it's always been a great place to live. It's affordable. It's a place where you want to raise your family. My sister was out in San Francisco, and she just moved to Windstone and was able to go from paying twice as much for a 1,100 square foot townhome to having a home where she and her husband can raise 2 kids. You're absolutely right. Fortville is a great place to live, but I don't think you're selling yourself short by allowing this development to come through. You are addressing a need that exists in the market for people who want to be a part of this community. In the comparison to Mount Vernon North and the standards, if we need to look at them side by side, I believe we meet or exceed almost every single one of their standards. They're not identical. There's some that they go a little farther on. There's some that we go a little farther on. But no, we don't meet every single one of the PUD standards, nor has any other PUD that has come through. We talk about the implications, tax and financially to the city. When we were at town council, there's the introduction of the water rate, and it was Joe talked about some upgrades that are needed to the water plant to deal with its aging. This is 317 capacity fees that would be paid to help address that. The assessed value of this land would go from agricultural to being an assessed value on over 300 homes that average north of $260,000. Would be a benefit to the city. I know people don't like change, but as I say, cities, towns, they're intended to grow, and it's when Windstone came in over 15 years ago now. Fortville wasn't what it is, but I think most of you would all say Fortville is better today. The product we are building, while some of the base sticks might be the same, we're adding on the hardy plank siding. We've upgraded our minimum square footage requirement. We've upgraded the lot size requirement. I think this would be a great addition to Fortville. Thank you.
Just to perfect the record, I have a couple of follow-up questions. Who were you required to provide notice to, and who did you provide notice to for these hearings?
Adam gave us the list of all adjacent property owners. We sent out notice as required by state law. We also published in the newspaper for the wider circulation.
Okay. We heard a comment with regard to a drive for the development going directly into the drive of the home across the street of someone else. Any commentary about adjusting any main thoroughfares coming out of the PUD onto and interfering with?
I'd have to
use?
look at how feasible it is to adjust that. We certainly could look at it. I also know that having driveways lining up directly across from each other is safer than having small offsets. So I know there are homes that exist on there. But we can look into that and see what is best from a safety and functionality standpoint.
Can you walk us through your inspection measures for adherence to these PUDs, your internal, how you do quality control in development?
In adherence to the requirements we're making,
Yes.
We build it. The long answer is when we go to sell, our back office staff sets up the options that are allowed to be selected by the salesperson in that community, so that they are only able to buy options that conform. We then, when we apply for our building permit, have to submit to the town the floor plans and blueprints, so that Adam can and staff can inspect those and ensure compliance with everything. We then have to, as we build the homes, go through the standard inspection process.
Okay, and we heard a couple of comments about quality as compared to other developments. What type of, just sort of the quality piece of it?
So the one that was mentioned along I-70, that would be the Autumn Woods neighborhood. That neighborhood was started by C.P. Morgan back in the early 2000s. We bought the remaining lots and sections from a bank in the probably 2012. So while we have built approximately half the homes in that neighborhood, there are also homes in there that are over 15 years old and done at a different time. We have quit using for a handful of years now. I can't even remember the name of what they were, the 3-tab shingles. We are all dimensional shingles now, which is an upgraded product. As I mentioned, this community would be all cement board siding. I fully believe there's a place in the market for vinyl, especially the improvements that have been made, but we've heard loud and clear cement board is what is wanted here.
Very good. Well, let me open it up. That perfects the record for me for the comments that I've heard. Let me
The
open up-
last thing, sorry,
Please.
that was asked earlier, we are dedicating right away along the county road. So that
No
the
additional
town would not
taking.
have to pay later on to acquire that right away.
So no additional taking would have to occur on other areas that widening to the 24 would fully occur on, and is that a part of the 24% you're preserving?
I don't believe so, because
It's an
it's
addition.
right, it's dedicated as right away, so it would no longer be our property.
Dedicated right away. Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I have one question to follow up on the dedicated right of way. Was there any discussion about dedicated right of way on Fortville Pike?
Whatever the standard is.
Okay. I'd like to find out what that is. If we've got some dedication, because everyone's talking about traffic concerns and as this area grows, it's just something we want to consider. If we've got better than option. It was 80 feet over the right of way. Oh, okay. Okay.
Or 80-foot half.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and it was, trails were also mentioned earlier. We'd have our perimeter trail going along Fortville Pike as well.
I'm sure this was probably answered at the prior meeting. Please refresh my memory because I don't remember. What is the existing speed limit on Fortville Pike on the front of that now? And will that drop? It's 55 now? Hmm. And they're going to drop it to 50.
We do have folks who are participating on audio, so if we could, but we'll preserve that. We're going to ask Adam up here in just a moment as well for some additional questions. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Raptor?
I had one quick question for you. I believe Mrs. Wheeler asked what your plans were to do at the rear of the homes that face the major roads. Is there going to be any kind of berm with landscaping?
There in the PUD includes the description of what the minimum landscape buffer and berm is. So I believe it is a 3 to 5 foot undulating mound with several trees per 100 feet along there. And we might have even ended up with a straight 5 foot mound. I can't remember the details there, but it's in the document.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We do have time in our agenda for those government representatives who might be in attendance or calling in to have any testimony. We're an aggregate of 5 minutes. So let me first start with those who might be in the room here live who might want to offer additional comments.
The comment that I made as far as the Autumn Woods, it was not a CP Morgan, it was an Arbor home. Even their model home, I took pictures. So I just kind of want to back my statement. I went to Beacon Schneider. I pulled government records to make sure what my statements were correct.
Okay. Thanks. And our time has passed, so,
Okay, I'm sorry.
and we have to keep, we just have to respect the
Okay,
fact
no,
that we
that's fine.
folks,
I'm
but thank you for that. Okay, this is the time for any government representative, so, Joe, please do. Come on up.
Joe Brenner, Fortville Town Manager. The question came up as far as the speed limit on Fortville Pike. We did a traffic study out there. The speed limit is 55 now. The recommendation for the speed study at this current time was to lower it to only 50. The town council has adopted that ordinance, so we will be lowering that. As soon as it gets advertised in the paper, we've got the signs, those signs will be going up. And as more development comes, we'll continue doing more speed studies, and we believe we're going to get that speed where it comes down, maybe slow some of the folks down.
Joe, while you're here,
Yes.
sewer.
Sewer.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Williams, real curious. How long have you lived out there? 20 years, okay. I remember there was a time, probably the fullest I've ever seen this room is when we were trying to run sewers through that subdivision. And everybody was opposed to it. You remember that? We had a developer that built that subdivision was wanting to take care of the last 2 lots and then serve a couple lots across Fortville Pike. And he was going to pay for the sewers through that development. And we had everybody from Mount Vernon Point in here that said, we don't want your sewer, stay out. And I think that was as full as I've ever seen this room, is what those people said they didn't, they didn't want the sewers. If you guys are interested in sewers today, It's something that we can look at. Don't know how we would fund it today. Like I said, we had the opportunity to have the developer fund it at the time, but if that's something that everybody's interested in, it'd be worth a discussion.
Well,
This really doesn't pertain to this project. If it's a
Yeah.
sewer thing, I'll be happy to meet with him after the meeting.
perfect.
Does that work?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Thank-
He's the guy. All right. Thanks, Joe. Any other government representatives who'd like to offer any comments, clarifications? Any on the line? Okay, Tammy, we'll close this out for the government, and let's have Adam come back up, because I believe we do have a couple of follow-up questions for him. Adam, anything that you were tracking that you want to make sure we perfect the record with, any comments from you?
Just a couple things. I think it's, from a staff perspective, it's really important that we listen to what some of the remonstrators are saying and to see what we can do to try to incorporate their feedback into the development as much as possible. So for all the concerns, we have been listening. I know especially on the tree preservation issue, that was one that Mr. Hayes and others had said that, that's important to look into and do what you can to try to save some more. So, we certainly do listen to comments, and we want to try to incorporate that in. What I can say, there were a lot of comments about Arbor Homes themselves. From what I can gather from all of looking at all their subdivisions in central Indiana, I do feel confident saying that if it were to be approved, that this would be one of the nicest Arbor Home subdivisions in central Indiana, definitely. Somebody it's still okay to disagree on whether that product type in and of itself is what people are looking for in the community, but I do feel confident saying that. So, and I do commend them for working with us. It's been a longer process than I wish it would have been, but I think we're getting close. And again, in my mind, the main outstanding issue is that tree preservation. A lot of the other issues with traffic, as the community grows, we'll continue to address those and stay on top of those issues.
Okay. Adam, just a couple of questions on cleanup. For the PUD standards that we have in front of us,
Mhm.
Can there just be maybe a reconciliation to what was presented? I think
Yeah, I'll fix the report for any inconsistencies.
Which one rules for
The PUD.
this guy here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I
Yep.
saw in here it's the not 2.93 versus 2.83, and then 3 versus 5 on the monotony. So we just might want to take a look at some of them are more conservative and some are not.
Yeah, we can definitely.
Okay. All right. Always a fan of paperwork. So
No,
thank you for
it's
that.
important for sure. The details are always important.
Okay. And then Adam, can you talk to us a bit? We talked earlier about the square footage and putting perhaps a cap that has been elsewhere on that square footage. Perhaps an 8 to 10% on that lower amount and then reverting to our PUD. Tell us your thoughts on that.
If you want to go in that direction, I think from a staff perspective, we can certainly come up with a method to track it. A lot of times in other communities, you'll hear our staff say, oh, we can't track it. It's too hard to track. We'll be able to track it if you wanted to do that. It does, as the builder said, there is truth to it. It limits some options for different buyers, but certainly if as a board, you feel strongly on that point and wanted to put some caps on that, we'd be able to track it and make sure that it's implemented.
Thank you. And last question for you, for me, with regard to the drives, how feasible is it that we can make sure that the drives as designed and will be installed will not interfere with the enjoyment of the adjoining neighbors?
Well, I would say that is always a tricky thing when you're trying to lay out a neighborhood and be cognizant and aware of existing properties nearby and be respectful of that. So that's certainly something that we can work with Arbor and the resident to see what items that we can do to, sometimes it can involve some more trees, maybe a mound, whatever, to see what can be done on that point.
Any other questions of Adam? Okay. Thank you, Adam. We do have before us a public hearing. We can open up our discussion with a motion that we can thereafter amend after discussion if need be, going about the way that we usually go about our motions. So if anybody would like to make a motion, we can perhaps open up our discussion. Or if prior to that, you would like to have any clarifications, happy to handle those as well.
I'm just overall struggling with if we can have a little bit of discussion. If that's, is that okay?
Absolutely. Clarifications and
I'm
discussion,
just,
sure.
I'm struggling with the process that we set the PUD standards. The developer, Arbor, didn't want to meet those. And now they're inching closer. And I empathize with what some of the comments were made here, Mr. Nugent, that we seem to be in a hurry when we have no need to be in a hurry. We're sacrificing some trees that seem to be important to a lot of people. We're still sacrificing some of our PUD standards. And it just feels like they're just going to, like Arbor's approaching us with, how about this? How about this? Is this enough? Is this enough? Will this get it done? Is this enough? I'm just overall not happy with it. I can't, I don't know how you want to make a motion. At this point, I can't support it.
Thanks for bringing
So-
it.
I have to concur. It felt like they're treating our standards as just guidelines, let's see what we can get away with instead of, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of respect. That's just what it feels like.
And I don't know how everybody else feels about a motion. I'm not inclined to support a motion to send a positive or a favorable recommendation. I'm leaning more towards a no recommendation or still an unfavorable. That's where I land. So I'd love to hear what everybody else
Any
is.
of those would constitute a motion. So
I'm sorry?
So any of those would constitute a motion. So we can make a favorable recommendation, we can make an unfavorable recommendation, or no recommendation.
My
All-
goal is not to waste everyone's time if I'm the only one, or Brittany and I are the only one that feel this way.
You're not the only one.
Okay. At this point, I would make a motion to send an unfavorable recommendation to the council based on the current standards that they've met.
I still think there's some things that
There is we'll go ahead. So there's a motion for an unfavorable recommendation. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I second.
Okay, let's have
Go ahead,
addition.
Brittany.
We can have,
Yeah.
yes, that's fine. We can have additional discussion. Perhaps it would be beneficial with an unfavorable recommendation on a advisory commission. It's typically nice to be able to enumerate some of the concerns that we might have. So I think we've started with some of that with Scott. And I think, Amanda, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same things that Scott said. I came in tonight looking at all this stuff, and the more I hear, the more I just have an unease about all of this. There's just, as much as Arbor Homes has addressed some of the concerns, I feel like Brittany said, let's see how much, okay, well, is this going to be enough? Okay, well, we'll do this one. So now is this going to be enough? So one of my main ones is the tree preservation. If this was agricultural, in the comprehensive plan, and this was originally deemed as agricultural, there was a reason and a purpose for that. Even though I did not serve during that time, there is a reason and a purpose. And because there were things identified in this area. Once these pockets of wetlands or woods, once they're gone, they're gone. Yeah, you can replace them with saplings and things like that. But so that's one of, especially listening to, I don't remember his name. He pretty much articulated exactly the way I felt about a lot of that. The other one is being in the building industry for 30 years. I am not a big fan of the Arbor product. I know that they're trying to step up their game on this, but I don't know that I don't know that the standards are what long-term we're looking for here in Fortville.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. Their standards are what?
Are just not what we're looking for here in Fortville.
Thank you for repeating.
Sure.
Any other discussion, clarifications, or questions from the commission?
One thing that popped into my mind that, and maybe I should have asked this earlier, we spend a lot of time talking about exterior quality. I feel like there's not a lot of time spent on, and I'm just curious, you know, there's no, I like the look of a house, but I want to live in my house, and that's much more important. And I don't know if we spend any time in the development standards, but I think that's something that should be taken into consideration. And I don't know if that necessarily plays one way or the other with this discussion. I just, you know, if we're talking about quality, all we're talking about is what are we slapping up on the side and putting over the top of it. But you're going to spend a lot more time in your house, living in your house. How does it feel? You know, are we putting quality products inside of homes as well? Just something to think about.
Go ahead, Brittany.
I would follow up with that, just because of the remonstrance letters that we received, that did bring up those issues as concerns.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? So just to maybe reiterate some of the concerns that we've heard about traffic, driveway layouts, make sure we have clean PUD, maybe look at the interior design in addition to some of the square footage. Certainly the agricultural intent in the comprehensive plan. And finally, which was first on Adam's list, preservation of the trees and environment. So I think those are the outstanding items that we had. So we do have a motion and a second. Would everybody be comfortable with calling for a vote at this time? So just to confirm, it's sometimes complicated when we do votes on unfavorable recommendations, but if you want to call first for all those in favor, which means you would support an unfavorable recommendation. It's double negatives and positives everywhere. But all those in favor of supporting an unfavorable recommendation to the town council, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those who are opposed to the unfavorable recommendation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who abstain.
Aye.
Okay, the motion does carry as an unfavorable recommendation by a majority of the members. Okay. So thank you all for attending. Thank you for your commentary and for your engagement in our community. Look forward to seeing you at many more meetings. We are going to head now to our second case, which is the public hearing for case number 05 RZ 2020, which is the Barnett property. Adam?
Thank you for everyone for doing a great job considering everything. It went off well, so thank you. From our end, it was good.
Okay, I'm glad you can hear us just fine. Good to hear. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And for those staying on the line, we are going to start our next case, which is the Barnett property, and Adam will kick us off with a summary. Okay.
What was the vote number on that? 4, I guess. 1 abstain.
5-1-1.
Okay.
Tammy, do you mind if I just do a quick reset so you can see what you're looking at and what might be up there? Sometimes there's a setting that allows us to see. Understand. Now what that does, that allows you to see here and here at the same time and control. There you go. No problem at all.
I'm not sure what she did.
We'll
It's
talk
supposed to be
offline
a
on that.
teaching moment.
Oh,
That's right.
sorry. I'm zooming through this meeting. Sorry about that. I'm just going to zoom through. I'll show you later. All
Yeah.
right. We are going to start with the case. Adam.
All right, thank you. The next case on our agenda is the Barnhart property rezone. So I think if you hit that, there we go. So this case involves approximately 38 acres, which would be rezoned from residential 3.5 to institutional at 8283 North 200 West. And the request is being made by Matt Skelton of Church, Hiddle, and Antrim on behalf of the Mount Vernon Community School Corporation. The school district desires to purchase the land for future growth because it's adjacent to their current complex and the property is for sale. The school district has not announced their exact intentions for the land. Here is the current zoning map. You can see the R3.5 over to the west across the street is there's some athletic fields. There's the elementary school. There's also the high school in that area. So you can see we've got R3.5 zoning to the north, and then institutional to the south. So that area surrounded in red would convert to gray institutional. Here's an aerial of the map or of the property. You can see that it is farmland, undeveloped. It is within the town limits, and it is tail end of it is adjacent to the county subdivision, Mount Vernon Trail. There's a bird's eye image of it taken fairly recently. You can see again just north of the existing administration building and the middle school. In terms of the community response, we have not received any letters of remonstrance on this request. The first reading of the rezone ordinance, introductory reading, went to town council on September 23rd. And based on their comments, they were supportive of the project. This is our comprehensive plan map. If you remember, we saw this in our last presentation. The parcel in question is shown as institutional or social. So again, going through the same evaluation criteria, is this consistent with the comprehensive plan? Yes, it is. The town concept map identifies this parcel as suitable for institutional or social uses. Is it consistent with the current character of the current structures on the property? Again, technically not today, but it would be upon development. The land is currently undeveloped, but would contain school buildings or uses consistent with industrial zoning. And crop production, which is the current use, is still a permitted use in institutional zoning. Is this consistent with the most desirable use of the land? I'd say yes and no. Again, it's hard to argue. The parcel is shown as institutional in the comprehensive plan. And although the town only receives about $650 in yearly property tax revenue on the parcel because it's undeveloped farmland, 38 acres is a large parcel to take entirely off the tax rolls, especially if another use could be developed on the property. Just wanted to note that the school district currently has an elementary school, middle school, and a high school, plus that administration building that's spread out across about 149 acres. Just by way of comparison, if they were to get the rezone and ultimately develop it, that would bring it up to about 187 acres. Just wanted, in terms of spatial planning and how it relates to some other communities, to wrap your mind around it. By way of comparison, Carmel's high school, their middle school, their elementary school, which is spread out on different sites, with a city of nearly 90,000 people, has only 112 acres. So maybe some excess land on this site could be sold in the future as a possibility. The school has expressed an interest in possibly building a second elementary school on the new property, possibly across from the existing Fortville Elementary. And while that's certainly understandable from a facilities planning perspective, it would be a lost opportunity to create a neighborhood-based walkable community asset by placing it in a mega campus. So from a city planning perspective, an elementary school is a highly coveted neighborhood amenity that can act as a focal point of an area. this facility could be placed on the northwest side of Fortville to be a walkable asset to the northwest Fortville neighborhood, which is under construction shortly, or even to the east near Windstone. And this would help to foster the small town atmosphere in Fortville. I had mentioned in the staff report some of the advantages of walkable neighborhood schools in terms of city planning. The rezone would also create an orphan property, a property owned by Scott Meyer, and that would remain R3.5 and would potentially be the only residential home in the area surrounded by a mega school campus. The school district has contacted Mr. Meyer to discuss potentially purchasing his property. Number 4, is it consistent with the conservation of property values? Yes, it would not negatively impact the surrounding properties. However, the Meyer property would be an isolated piece surrounded by a school campus. And number 5, is it consistent with responsible growth and development? Yes, with a question mark. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It would be consistent with responsible growth and development, but an opportunity to spread public investment to other areas to foster a small town walkable environment could be lost by doing this. Again, very big supporter of the school district, but want to give fair and honest feedback in regards to land use decisions. So with the staff recommendation, on the basis that the comprehensive plan shows the land is institutional, staff recommends that the Plan Commission grant a favorable recommendation to the Town Council for the rezone, but subject to the following condition: that number 1, the school district shall analyze various sites near the Old Town area or northern portion of Fortville for a walkable elementary school location near a residential neighborhood. And from here, again, tentative schedule, in case Mitchell from the newspaper's here. October 5th, Town Council, second reading, approval, denial, or no action on the rezone ordinance. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. Thank you.
Adam, how is that recommendation enforceable?
Well, I look at it this way. We're obviously not saying that they have to purchase other sites. That would go way too far. That would be unreasonable. What we're simply saying is that they shall analyze and come up with seriously look at it. And if they can't end up doing it for whatever reason, then so be it. But this is a good opportunity to really push that aspect forward at this time.
Adam, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding, is it the Meyer property?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, so that would be if, the Barnhart property is purchased, then if the Myers decided that they wanted to sell that property, the school district would be willing to purchase it, because I doubt that they would be able to sell the house being surrounded by the school buildings.
Yes, I believe the school district has expressed a willingness to work with Mr. Meyer to potentially purchase the property. And presumably, if the sale were to go through, I would anticipate that the school district would come back with a institutional rezone for that particular piece of property.
I just wouldn't want to see a local resident be stuck with a piece of land that they could never leave because they couldn't resell it.
Yeah, so their property is unaffected by this. Their zoning at R3.5 would stay the same.
Okay. Any other questions of Adam? Okay, we do have time in our agenda for those who are petitioning for this case to offer some testimony. Please state your name and spell it for our record, please.
Good evening. I'm Andy Wert, ANDYWERT. I'm a land use professional with a law firm of CCHA. with offices at 2 North 9th Street in Noblesville and at 10765 Lantern Road in Fishers. With me in the audience are Dr. Jack Parker, Superintendent of Mount Vernon Community School Corporation, as well as Greg Elkins, Chief Financial Officer, and Sarah Randall, partner in the TCHA law firm. Mount Vernon is in the process of purchasing the 37.609 acres from the Barnhart family. As Adam mentioned, the 8200 block of County Road 200 West. Again, Adam gave a good, I think, lineup of where this is, right across the street from Fortville Elementary, just north of the middle school, and then of course to our southwest is the high school campus. The school district really has no immediate plans to develop the property. At this point, we believe this is a strategic purchase. Our district is growing. There are opportunities to develop dynamics and in the area, given that we already own the property and utilize property to the west and south. Your staff has recommended a favorable recommendation, subject to the condition that we analyze the sites near Old Town for our elementary school. We're certainly agreeable to that recommendation. Our current needs analysis for a new elementary school is very much in its early stages. We certainly welcome the dialogue with the town as we move forward. That's really the end of my formal presentation.
How would you
Entertain
characterize good
questions.
faith compliance with that, that assertion that you would look at Old Town? How would you characterize a good faith compliance with that?
I think we would commit to at least opening a dialogue with the town as we move forward with a new elementary site location. Again, this property was available. It was available for a price that we could afford to pay, and we felt like it was a responsible decision to go after it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ward. Any additional questions?
I do. So I believe it was back in February that the school district had a public hearing, and they discussed making Fortville Elementary School into an intermediate school, building a new elementary school, and making the middle school grades 7 through 8 only. Is that still being considered to try to make the middle school 2 grades only for that whole area and Fortville Elementary into an intermediate school?
I might have
Dr. Parker, would you
Dr.
like
Parker,
to? Yeah,
address
you
that.
get a thumbs up there, Brittany. Is that
Okay.
gonna? Yeah, it's not testimony, but it's a thumbs up from the crowd. Okay.
This was from the school public hearing back early at the beginning of the year.
Doctor, would you mind just, or Brittany, do you have any other
I'm just
follow-up?
asking about the current intention that was discussed at the beginning of the year. That was still the intent for the school district for those properties?
Sure. And so, speaking on behalf of the applicant, Dr. Parker, could you just state and spell your name and maybe address the question?
Jack Parker, Jack Parker, and I'm superintendent of Mount Vernon Schools. Yes, indeed, our future growth plan does include a grade reconfiguration. That is what our community champions of several hundred liked and preferred, and our advisory had been planning for several months. So basically turning Fortville Elementary back into an intermediate school. It's built as one. It's ready to go as one. It's got lockers and locker bays and a large cafeteria and a large gymnasium. So that'll work pretty well as an intermediate school again. And then what that does is it siphons a grade off of our 3 elementary schools, so it allows more room for them to grow. It siphons a grade off of the middle school to allow them more room to grow. And with our impending growth, we're going to need all the space we can get. We feel it's the best way to be stewards of our tax dollars. So in order to do that grade configuration, we will still need in the future 3 elementary schools. And we are currently, as we've shared, on a dual track And we should get some more data on that pretty soon and start being announced and announce that and share that with our champions in our community in the coming months. But we don't know yet if we are going to recommission our current admin building into an elementary school K through 4, or build an elementary school on a site yet to be determined. And those have different dominoes, so that's what we're working on right now, and we're still in that stage. Thankfully, we're not to a point where things are urgent for us to add capacity, but they will be in the near future. Does that help answer your question?
It does. Thank you. Sure. Thank you, Doctor. Any, well, seeing as we might bring you back up, Mr. Ward, but any other questions? Okay. We do have time in our agenda for those who might have questions or would like to speak against this proposal or application. We call it remonstrance. So and let's start with folks here live. Okay, the records show that we do not have any. Any participating via Zoom have any questions? Not a member of the applicant, or anybody other questions? Okay, we do have time in our agenda for those of government officials to address any concerns that have come up or to offer any comments. Okay, the record shows we do not have any there either. And so we can open it up now for additional questions of Adam, Mr. Wirt, or a discussion by the Planning Commission. No? Okay. Is anybody interested in a motion? And Adam, we are favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation would be the options we have? Okay.
I motion that we're favorable of the recommending this rezoning to the town council.
Okay, a favorable recommendation. Is there a second? Okay, favorable and a second. We can open it up for any other discussion or questions again. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation for Barnard property. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicate by the same. And any abstain?
Aye.
I'm sorry. So we did not have the condition that was initially recommended by the staff, correct? We just did a pure favorable recommendation.
Let's pause on that. Was your intent that it be under staff recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, so it was a staff recommendation. Alex, do we need to clarify our motion at this time?
Yes.
Look at that. It's like a big old yes, yes. Okay. So let's just clarify that the motion was made accompanied by staff recommendations, and with that amended, would you second that as well? Yes. Okay, and thank you, Nathan. The motion, we can vote again, is that accompanied by staff recommendations for a favorable recommendation to the council. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And abstain?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We do,
Thank you.
yes, thank you very much. We do have any board comments? Any questions or comments by the board? Okay, we can adjourn at about 8:15. So thank you, members, and thank you to the public for joining us this evening.
Do we need to make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we do. Motion to adjourn.
I will make a
I
motion
make-
to adjourn at 8:15.
I will
Alright.
second that.
Look, I just called it. I'm like, we're
Okay.
just gonna do it. We're out of here. We're out of here.
Bye-bye.
Tammy, I owe you some minutes.